Hello, good day everyone. This is me again, Maite C. Encarnacion, your subject teacher for English for academic and professional purposes. So now we are down to our Unit 4 and we are going to discuss our first lesson for today. But first, let's review on what we had learned on our Unit 3. What's the lesson on our Unit 3, Gane? It's all about a summary or the process of summarizing and the techniques in summarizing. Now, the lessons in lesson 2 will be given through a PowerPoint presentation and will be given by next week because it only talks about the techniques and steps in summarizing and it requires reading. Okay, students? So you have to read all about the techniques and steps in summarizing. Sa lesson 2 po na PowerPoint in Unit 3, more on examples siya. Okay? So you have to read very, very carefully. Okay, so now we are going to discuss all about paraphrasing. Okay, we are now on our lesson 1 on Unit 4. Okay, now what is paraphrasing? Now question, how do researchers put together a paper that makes sense using various sources? What do you think is the answer? The answer is paraphrasing. Now, what is paraphrasing? It is presenting ideas and information in your own words, acknowledging where they come from. By using your own words, you demonstrate your understanding and your ability to convey this information or the information that you had gathered from various sources. Okay, now, learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to do the following. Define paraphrasing, identify the kinds of paraphrasing, and identify the kinds of plagiarism. And analyze a paraphrase text and gain insight about the importance of paraphrasing in academic writing. So the following are the essential questions that to be answered at the end of the lesson. First, how can you avoid committing plagiarism? Next, why is paraphrasing an important reading and writing skill? Now, what is paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is a restatement of a text, a passage, or work, and to give the meaning in another form. Now, paraphrasing means formulating someone else's ideas in your own words. To paraphrase a source, you have to rewrite a passage without changing the meaning of the original text. Now, how would you know what a good paraphrase is? First, it relays the information from the source text in your own words. Next, it leads the readers to the source of the information. Okay. Now, how do we know paraphrasing versus plagiarism? Okay. When do you need to paraphrase information from a text? Question. Did you use your own words? If no, did you add quotes? When we say quotes, these are phrases or sentences from another writer that is from a writer that you plan to include in your own essay or text or study or research, ganon. If not, then that is plagiarism. If wala ninyo gi-quote si author. If yes, then that is a proper paraphrased content. Now, let's move on to the yes part. Did you use your own words in your essay or a study or a text? If yes, did you add references? References, these are sources of information. If no, then that is plagiarism. If yes, you added references. If yes, another question will pop up. Did you create a reference list? kani class ang reference list na siya sa mga libro or sa isa ka research study. Diha na to makitaan ang kung asa na to gipangkuha, asa na mga source na to gipangkuha ang information nga gi-include na to sa atong sariling work or output. Did you create a reference list? If yes, then that is a proper paraphrased work. If no, if not, then that is plagiarism. Now, I had checked your essay assignments recently, and I had found out that some of the students had plagiarized their assignments, had plagiarized contents in their assignments. That is a very bad practice, no, on our subject, because we are aiming for your originality here, no, sa inyong mga topics sa essay assignments. So next time, I am expecting you to create your own work and produce your own output using your own words. Okay? If dili jud maiwasan na magkuha sa isa ka source, then you have to paraphrase. You have to use your own words without necessarily removing the original meaning of the text. Okay? Only paraphrase lang. Okay? Now, when to paraphrase? Paraphrase when dealing with short texts with 1 or 2 sentences or a paragraph with 5 sentences. Okay, now, paraphrase when you want to minimize direct quotation. Paraphrase when you want to rewrite the author's words without changing the meaning of the source text. Now, how do you paraphrase? We have 4 kinds of paraphrasing, which is the changing of the parts of speech, changing of sentence structure, clause reduction, and synonym replacement. Changing on the parts of speech. Now, the function of some words in a sentence are changed to a different part of speech. Now, what are the parts of speech, gani? We have nouns, pronouns, verbs, articles, prepositions, conjunctions, adverbs, adjectives. So, ganon. Yan yung mga parts of speech, ha? Ay, kung ini nakalimot na mo, na nasa yung junior high. Okay. Now, for example, source. Ang kaning original text ang source, ha? After reading a book, Lina took a break. The highlighted word is what part of speech? It's a verb. Okay. Now, what form of verb? It's in the present participle. Now, let's go to the paraphrased sentence. After she had read a book, Lina took a break. Unsa man ang had read? It's now in the past participle. Okay, very good. You can change the structure of the sentence without necessarily removing or changing the meaning of the original source of text. Okay, next, it's the changing of the structure. The structure of the sentence is changed to reflect the writer's interpretation of the source text. For example, Miss Jan will be teaching English next semester. Paraphrased sentence, next semester, English will be taught by Miss Jen. It's only changing the sentence structure. Pwede nimo siya balihon. Kaya aron dili siya mamahimong pariha sa original text. Ana ra ng pag-paraphrase, ha, mga langga. Very, very simple. Next, clause reduction. Clauses are reduced or changed to phrases to lessen confusion and interruption and make the sentence simpler. Okay, source. Now, unsa gani kalahian sa clause o phrase? Clauses have subject and a predicate. It has subject, noun, and object, while phrases do not. Now, clauses can stand alone. Okay, and it can be considered as a complete sentence. While phrases, dili siya ma-considered as complete because it is only a part of a sentence and it doesn't have a complete thought. Okay. Now, for example, the source is marsupials are endemic to Australia and many of their species are considered to be endangered species. Now, the paraphrased sentence is many species of marsupials endemic to Australia are endangered species. Okay. Mapansin nato sa source original text is that it is a compound sentence. Sa pa-paraphrase man nato, we can shorten the sentence into a simple sentence. When we say compound sentence, it consists of two clauses. When we say clauses, it has both of the clauses has complete thought. When we say complete thought, naa siya subject, naa siya noun, naa siya verb, naa siya object. Okay? So, mapansin na to sa source, the first clause that has a complete thought, because it is a compound sentence, is that marsupials are endemic to Australia. That is the first clause. Next clause is, many of their species are considered to be endangered species. Diba? Compound siya because it has two clauses. Now, in order for us to have a shorter version, we can paraphrase that into a simple sentence. When we say simple sentence, it only when we say simple sentence, it only presents one complete thought. Okay, it only has one noun or subject, verb, and a predicate, a single one predicate or one object of the sentence. Okay. Next, synonym replacement. It involves the change of words in a sentence with similar words or synonyms. Okay, for example, the source is smoking is dangerous to your health. The highlighted word, the synonym for the highlighted word is on the next sentence, on the paraphrased one. Smoking is hazardous to your health. So, the synonym of dangerous is hazardous. Okay. Another example, gravitation is not responsible for people falling in love, according to Albert Einstein. Now, this example is an example of a quote from another author. Okay? Now, when we paraphrase that, we can say that gravity is not responsible for those who fall in love. Totoo ba? Charot. Okay. Now, let's move on with plagiarism. Okay, naintindihan na ba natin yung kinds of paraphrasing? Ano nga yung apat? The changes in change in parts of speech, change in structure, clause reduction, and synonym replacement. Okay, very good. Now, let's move on to plagiarism. Now, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is claiming ownership of a material that is not your own. Okay? Kabalo na mo sa ako ang mga comments sa inyong mga assignment. Okay. In writing gyud class, dili gyud ta pwede mo claim og isa ka text nga atoa. Okay? Pag dili atoa, dili manguha or mangilog. Okay. Okay, so now let's move on with what are the kinds of plagiarism. We have three. Okay, first is the word-for-word or verbatim plagiarism. It is also known as the copy-paste plagiarism, and it happens when a researcher copies another person's work word-for-word or verbatim without proper citation of the author. Aniha, for example, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. According to Albert Einstein, this is a proper citation. It's including the name of the original author of that particular sentence or phrase. Now, if you only copied the phrase or the sentence word for word without including the name of the author, then that is verbatim or word for word plagiarism. Just like the blue colored sentence, diha, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Ana lang, walay author. Plagiarism na siya, ha? So it's uh, not appropriate in writing essays, researches, and studies. Dili na siya pwede, ha. Dapat mag-cite yun, mag-paraphrase yun if dili makaya o explain in your own words. Explain. If dili makaya o explain using your own words, then you have to have a proper citation using, including the author's name. Okay. Next is the word order plagiarism. When we say word order, it happens when a writer changes some of the words of the author by looking at the synonyms of the words and replacing or rearranging them to make the text look as if it were their own. Okay, di po di siya pwede, ha? For example, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Same example, gyapon, according to Albert Einstein. Now, the paraphrased text is the ability to change is the measure of intelligence. Now, we all know, some of the people knows that the original author of this sentence is Albert Einstein. But another author claims that that is his or her work. Then that now is plagiarism. Kaya wala niya gitarong og cite, bisag iyahan ng gi-paraphrase. Mailhan gyapon na siya mga langga. Okay? Next is the idea plagiarism. It happens when a writer paraphrases the work of another in his or her own writing but does not properly cite or attribute the idea to the authors. Okay, this is very, very bad plagiarism. For example, same example, the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Now, the sentence of another author is your ability to change says a lot about your intelligence. Okay? Ang idea no ni Einstein, murag gikuha sa iyaha sa isa ka author, which is very, very wrong. Okay? Kung kamo as have to practice your originality in writing sentences and phrases or clauses. Okay? Para makuan pod matest pod ang inyong credibility as a writer. Okay? Now, what makes an appropriate paraphrase? You can spot a good or bad paraphrase by comparing it with the source text and checking if the paraphrase is the writer's understanding of the source text. Or copied portions lang ba of the text or the writer committed plagiarism. Okay? Now, questions for your understanding. These questions might be asked during our online classes, ha? When does one use the change of parts of speech paraphrase? And next is what makes a good paraphrase. Next, you have to analyze why should a writer properly cite his or her sources when paraphrasing a text. Okay, so you have to be ready with your answers, ha, during our online classes. Okay, so I think that would be the end of our discussion. But before we end our discussion, let's have a summary first. Or rewind. Okay, let's have a review. Okay, paraphrasing is a restatement of a text, passage, or work to give the meaning in another form. The kinds of paraphrasing are the following. Four kinds: change in the parts of speech, change of structure of the sentence, clause reduction, and synonym replacement. Now, the kinds of plagiarism that we had discussed is word for word or verbatim plagiarism. Next is the word order plagiarism and the idea plagiarism. Okay, class. I think that would be all for our lesson 1 for unit 4. See you on our lesson 2. Siguro, makadiscuss ko. Thank you for listening.